Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the University of Manchester, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the Manchester Business School graduation ceremony in the splendid surroundings of the Whitworth Hall. In particular, I would like to welcome your families and friends who are sharing this special occasion with you. I know the immense sense of pride that your family members must feel as they see you graduate. I am sure that all of you graduating today will recognize the huge role that your family and friends have played in your success. It's not only the financial investment that they have made, but the support that I'm sure that you will have received when you thought you would never complete your degree, the late night calls, the constant encouragement, the shoulder to cry on. It is therefore right that we as the university also acknowledge the role that you, our guests today, have played in the success of your friends and family members. We honor you because the students that are graduating today are doing so because of the dedication and investment of others like you. Sometimes it seems that we are trapped in a microcosm of tranquility. The term ivory tower comes to mind, sheltered from the dramatic changes that are taking place around us. 3 years ago, I stood in front of an audience similar to this, and my message was one of optimism. We had never had it so good. The university had completed a major capital building program. Our merger had been hugely successful, and our graduates were entering a world where their skills were highly sought after. Yet in the space of a few years, everything has turned upside down. You are now entering an external environment where graduate unemployment has been the highest for over 20 years. We as an institution are facing cuts of 80% to our teaching budget from the government. Tuition fees are rising to £9,000 per annum, which will make a British public university education the most expensive in the world. In one fell swoop, the government has transferred the cost of higher education to the student by withdrawing the annual block grant to universities of nearly £4 billion. No longer will universities be about the provision of higher education in the sense that it is a public good which adds value in its own right. We are going to be transformed into a lightly regulated market in which consumer demand is sovereign. Although there has been indignant anger at the broken promises by politicians, we are, in my view, sleepwalking into a perfect storm. We have too easily accepted the false premise that fees need to rise because only an elite benefits from university education. At Manchester, nearly a third of our students come from families where the income is less than £25,000 per annum. They will be entitled to bursaries of £3,000 per annum when they come to Manchester next year. We have no idea how some arts-based courses will fare in this brave new world, where universities are conceived simply as engines of economic growth and as agencies for equipping future employees to earn higher salaries. Although all students will obtain loans, the psychological impact of taking on such a huge burden of loans at such a young age is unpredictable. Taking a leaf from the tax-dodging literature, my simple advice to future students is this: take the loan, graduate, set up a successful company that will own all of your future assets, and pay yourselves a salary of £20,000, £999 per annum. That way you will avoid having to pay back your loan. As graduates from MBS in the University of Manchester, you are in an extremely privileged position, and your achievement in completing your qualification should not be underestimated. The university is proud to have MBS within it as a beacon of excellence, recognized by the Financial Times as having the best doctoral program in the world, and among the top 30 MBA programs anywhere, and the top 4 in the UK. In 2008, the government recognized MBS as the #1 powerhouse amongst business schools in terms of research. I know the school is most proud of a recent Business Week Bloomberg ranking, which placed MBS #3 in the world in terms of value for money, an outcome that is so important in a period when fees are rising. MBS graduates tend to reap the benefits of their investment. MBS is also important to the university as the leading provider of executive education and corporate engagement, with partnerships with such companies as Tesco, BP, JCB, PZ Cousins, AstraZeneca, Pets at Home, Manchester City Football Club, IMAP in the US, and many more. Manchester is one of the leading research universities in the world, and to illustrate that, it was incredible news that two members of our staff, Professor Andrei Geim and Professor Konstantin Novoselev, were awarded the Nobel Prize in 2010, bringing to 4 the number of Nobel Prize winners who are currently at work in Manchester. Their discovery of graphene is going to transform areas like the development of transistors, solar cells, conducting electrodes such as touch screens, and integrated circuits. There are even potential applications in fields such as medicine and food technology. However, the really incredible story about the discovery of graphene is not the brilliance of the scientists who invented it. The use of a piece of sellotape will, I'm certain, enter scientific folklore, but the fact that it epitomizes what university research is all about. First, they are Russian-born, living proof that science is an international field. Yes, they are immigrants. And we as an institution benefit hugely from our immigrants in all fields: science, humanities, economics, medicine, and the performing arts. But the critical point about their revolutionary scientific breakthrough is that it would not have been possible without academic freedom. Scientists, whether they work in the physical sciences or the social sciences, must be given the freedom to come up with radical and unorthodox ideas, accepting the fact that research sometimes fails. Scientists must be given the freedom to follow research to a dead end. It is why universities were created, to drive forward the pursuit of knowledge and truth. Society benefits from the knowledge that comes out of these institutions in ways that you cannot categorize or cost or put into some sort of balance sheet. That you are privileged is not in doubt. Consider first the fact that in our society today, of the 600,000 students who reach 16 each year, more than 300,000 will fail to get 5 GCSEs at grades A to C. Most of those who fail to achieve those grades come from the lowest social groups. When it comes for preparation for entry to the leading higher education institutions like Manchester, only 0.2% of pupils on free school meals, that's just 176 children nationally, achieved 3 A grades at advanced level out of a total of nearly 30,000 learners. The fact remains that despite numerous government initiatives, only 40% of young people in this country have the opportunity to study at university. At research-intensive universities like Manchester, the number of students from lower socioeconomic groups remains pitifully small. Every year, through an alumni program, we sponsor about 20 students from Uganda and Bangladesh to come to study in Manchester or take part in one of our distance learning programs. It is part of our program of equity and merit scholarships, where we hope to give the brightest students from countries where they did not have the opportunity or the resources to benefit from a Manchester education. I have interviewed some of those students, and they all understand the life-transforming impact of the educational opportunities that they are being offered, not just for themselves and their families, but for their country. It is a small program. We only have the resources to support 20 students. Over 1,000 apply for the program in Uganda, all of them highly intelligent and quite able to qualify at this university. They know that education and work are the levers to lift up a people. So you are privileged because you have been given an opportunity which most young people have been denied. But the most optimistic thing about these students is that the reason they value this opportunity so greatly is that they see themselves as a force of change in their countries. They are not corrupted by the limitations of the real world and its insurmountable problems. They imagine solutions. They learn so they can change the world around them. Society will benefit from their education. And if there ever was a time when change is so desperately needed, it is now. We are not just facing an economic crisis, but a moral one. We are the 4th richest country in the world, yet inequalities between those at the top of our society and those at the bottom are the greatest that there have been for over 100 years. Working as a physician in inner-city Manchester, I find it unacceptable that a man born in Russia, where I work, has a life expectancy of 10 years less than a man born in a wealthier part of the city. I see the effects of poverty all around me, in the despair of my patients and the rundown housing estates and the struggle that they face in supporting their families on jobs that pay the minimum wage. They are the new servants in our society, the people who clean our cars, who clean our offices, and look after our vulnerable and elderly population. And yet you can travel a few miles into the city and see examples of unimaginable wealth. At the end of this ceremony, many of you will congregate in the quadrangle outside this building to celebrate this occasion. In the corner of that quadrangle is a plaque which honors students and staff of this university who sacrificed their lives in the great wars of the last century. Even though I have worked here in Manchester for over 18 years, I have to admit that I had never noticed that memorial until recently. But as I read the names of the men and women, I reflected on the fact that they would have sat in this same hall with the same hopes and aspirations that you have. It was their surviving parents, brothers and sisters, friends and families who, after the Second World War, bequeathed us much of what we came to expect as the prevailing orthodoxy for the next 40 years. The welfare state, the NHS, full employment, free access to higher education, and much, much more. It was the evils of ignorance, of want, idleness, squalor, and disease that were some of the causes of the wars that took their lives. And I can imagine how the people who came through that terrible period in Europe's history sought to ensure that we would never have to go through that again, that young lives would never be lost to the futility of war, that the concentration camps, the massive civilian casualties would never happen again. That is why these structures were created. And although there were problems, on the whole, they served their purpose well. Such short memories we have. The facts speak clearly for themselves. Britain is one of the most unequal societies in the developed world. The richest fifth of our population have an income of more than 7 times that of the poorest fifth. The same ratio for Japan and Finland is just over 3. Wage inequality between the richest and poorest is now as great as in 1854, when Charles Dickens was writing Hard Times. And this is a recent phenomenon. The income gap measured using the Gini coefficient shows that income inequality is 40% worse than it was in 1974. And we have the crime statistics, the mental illness, the teenage pregnancies, the obesity, and the literacy scores to prove it. What happened to the hopes of that generation that sat in this hall over 70 years ago? Is it really the case that elitism is efficient, that exclusion is necessary, that prejudice is natural, that greed is good, and that despair is inevitable? Listening to our politicians today, you would think that this is the natural order. Yet there is also hope. You only have to read the newspapers to understand what young people like you are doing in Egypt, Tunisia, Bahrain, and Syria, challenging the prevailing orthodoxy, fighting for a better life for all. It isn't a coincidence that both in Tunisia and Egypt, there is a large university-educated population. Something is profoundly wrong with the way we live today. For the past 30 years, we have made a virtue out of material self-interest. In fact, for many, this now constitutes whatever remains of our sense of collective purpose. We know what things cost, but no longer have an idea of what they are worth. We never ask about fairness or justice or morality. These used to be the political questions, and it seems that we no longer pose them because they are so difficult. Better to retreat into glib answers about deficit reductions, welfare scroungers, and everyone having to suffer the pain of profligacy. We need to change the parameters of the debate if we are going to bring about a better society or a better world. Why am I telling you all this? Because as graduates from MBS, you may well become the new elites. I want you to reflect on these inequalities and consider the personal responsibilities that should make you informed and engaged citizens. You can, through your actions and the choices that you make in your future career, especially in your chosen professions, do things that can make a difference. If change is required, then universities can play a hugely important role. We can help create new ideas and better societies because we are free, because we challenge assumptions and challenge ourselves. As students who have studied in one of the most preeminent institutions in the UK, you need not be tainted by my generation's narrow obsession with growth in formula and metrics, which somehow sought to explain away uncertainty and greed. We should have an obligation not just to serve, but to doubt, not just to help shape prevailing wisdom, but to question it. That is your challenge. Paraphrasing a famous quote, you have to move away from asking why things are the way they are and start dreaming of things that never were and ask why not. Knowledge and people with knowledge are critical to addressing the challenges that we face. This is what we do as a university. This is who we are. We produce knowledge and we disseminate it. We teach our students as we share the fruits of our research. But all of my colleagues, as teachers and researchers, will tell you that we teach for a purpose, to contribute what we can to a better, more humane, more intelligible world. Some of this will do this through a devotion to improving human health or investigating climate change, others by considering how law and policy can advance justice, or by finding new meaning in timeless texts or great works of art, still others by analysing economic upheavals and devising means to address them. All of us share an opportunity to demonstrate, through the imaginative pursuit of knowledge, why our universities embody society's most enduring investment in the future. This ceremony has been repeated in much the same way in this hall for over 100 years. I myself do not understand the significance of all the bowing and doffing of hats, the standard bearers, the procession. But the essence of what the ceremony conveys is our independence, our role not as a bureaucracy or a government agency or a social service agency, but our job to train, to educate, and to question. John Masefield, the poet laureate from 1930 to 1967, was so enamored by universities that he wrote, "There are few earthly things more beautiful. It is a place where those who hate ignorance may strive to know, where those who perceive truth may strive to make others see, where seekers and learners alike, banded together in the search for knowledge, will honor thought in all its finer ways, will welcome thinkers in distress or in exile, will uphold ever the dignity of thought and learning, and will exact standards in these things. Religions may split into sect or heresy, dynasties may perish or be supplanted, but for century after century, the university will continue, and the stream of life will pass through it, and the thinker and the seeker will be bound together in the undying cause of bringing thought into the world." So university education should be a transforming experience, where I hope you have been encouraged to confront your own personal beliefs, values, assumptions, expectations, hopes, and fears. We hope that we've helped you to develop global perspectives and encourage you to reflect on wider social and environmental issues. But it is not just about achievement in the traditional sense that is important. We come to universities not only to further our careers, but to become citizens. And in order to make good citizens, our responsibility as your teachers has been to educate people capable of building just, humane, and sustainable human communities on a small and exceedingly dangerous planet. Knowledge, wisdom, and humanity, to translate the Latin motto of this university, is what we have tried to impart. So the challenge we now set you is to use the knowledge that you have gained, not only for your own and your family's achievement, but for the betterment of society, for tolerance and understanding. Education is what will help us innovate, to challenge bigotry and to embrace fundamental human and civil rights and meet the challenges of the future. Things may be bad outside this hall, but you should never give in to pessimism. Never surrender your fate to chance. Use your education to endure and seek out new frontiers. At times of volatility, uncertainty, and change, we must become the architects of change, not its victims. Searching for some words to express all this to you, to give you some more optimistic thoughts to go away with, I came across a quote from Jeremy Bentham, who, like John Owen, who bequeathed us this university, and in his case, University College London, wrote a little note to a young daughter, a friend's daughter, and he wrote, "Create all the happiness you are able to create. Remove all the misery you are able to remove. Every day will allow you to add something to the pleasure of others, or to diminish something of their pains. And for every grain of enjoyment that you sow in the bosom of another, you shall find a harvest in your own bosom, while every sorrow which you pluck out from the thoughts and feelings of a fellow creature shall be replaced by beautiful peace and joy in the sanctuary of your soul. Thank you very much.
My colleagues on the faculty of Manchester Business School please to rise while I make a few very brief comments. Because what I say is on behalf of myself and the academic and professional staff and alumni body of Manchester Business School when we offer you our heartiest congratulations and best wishes. I'd like to thank my colleagues for all the hard work that they do in the classroom and advising and supervising, so can we give them a round of applause? As you venture out, you'll be joining a network of 44,000 plus alumni all over the world in places like Manchester and London, in Greece, in the United States, in the Caribbean, in India. Wherever you go, you're going to have like-minded people bound together by the Manchester experience that you'll be part of, and that is one of the greatest benefits of your degree today. We want you to be active alumni, not only because you will get something from us, because we need to get something from you. We need your help in our continued march to excellence. Our alumni come back and speak to students. They bring their experience in the real world back into the classroom. You'll hire our students in the organizations in which you work. You'll help promote MBS and its activities to the community outside the school, and you'll provide critical gifts for scholarships, research centers, faculty chairs, and our exciting building project. And excuse me for mentioning that, but that's part of my job. So I offer you my heartiest congratulations and wish you all the best as you continue forward. This year we created the MBS Teaching Academy as a center for excellence in teaching and learning. Academic staff invited to join the academy are exemplars of good teaching practice. This is part of our effort to improve the student experience at every level at MBS. I'm pleased to recognize Dr. Eleanor O'Connor as one of the entrants into, could you please rise, into the Academy for her teaching excellence. Elaine was selected on the basis of her teaching and other professional achievements. On the teaching side, she's principally involved with working with postgraduate students, delivering workshops, seminars, and consultancy projects, as well as developing practical management skills for full-time MBA students at the school. Eleanor will be going as our nominee to the Harvard Business School Global Colloquium on Participant-Centered Learning, which will bring back as an exemplar of good teaching practice. But thank you and all your colleagues in the Teaching Academy for all you do to make teaching one of our beacons of excellence. And now I'll ask my colleague, Dr. Pete Nardi, to come forward.
Vice President, on behalf of the Senate of the University, I present to you for the degree of Doctorate of Social Science, Ian Douglas Miles. And for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Abdul Wahab Achuri. Angela Jijom Akosu. Hayat Ali. Shazeb Ali Malik. Jorge Bateria. Philip Boucher. John Broderick. Cha Cheng Chung. Daniel Gideon Dresner. Lee Anthony Eddowes. Paul Gareth Evans. Bo Guang. Antonia Hajihana. Joanne Hines. Maricera Onratana Utai. Carrie-Anne Hunt. Salome Irere. Muhammad Hanif bin Jedin. Rabia Fatima Khan. Amna Khan. Sahar Kasawane Chalgun. Jeong Kim. Anastasia Kinigu. Angela Musimenta. Zale Najafi Tivani. Joanne Odell. Oleg Ruban. Nitin Sangavi. Nicholas Savio. Ahmed Mamdou Tahoun. Omnak Tonko. Evangelia Varutza. Georgios Vulgaris. Nicola Wall. Sasha Yu. Gazim Zafarian. And for the degree of Master Philosophy Business Administration, Meryl Lefebvre. And for the degree of Master of Science in Accounting and Finance, So Ying Chan. Suhasini Ganapathy. Sham Wu. And in Corporate Communications and Reputation Management, Elizabeth Mackenzie Harkey. And in Finance and Economics, Mohammed Haroon Iqbal. And in Healthcare Management, Laszlo Igali. Mohammed Iqbal. Grace Tom Lawyer. And in Human Resource Management and Industrial Relations, Fan Gale. And in Information Systems, Organizations and Management, Christopher Eri Satyawan. And in International Human Resource Management and Comparative Industrial Relations, Rajesh Bomanapalli. And in Marketing, Ishita Nigam. Saravana Sudan Sivakumar. And in Operations, Project and Supply Chain Management, Sashi Mistry. And in Organizational Psychology, Fawzia Ali. Madhvi Joshi. Rachel Nicola Beaumont Tovey. Paul Russell Wilson. Beth Wilson. And for the postgraduate certificate in healthcare governance, Helen Board. And for the postgraduate certificate in executive management for the third sector management, Susan Margaret Allison. Amanda Jane Hampson. Stephen Raymond Hyde. Julie Ann Isted. Porig Colm Lewis. Gail Edith Rivka Norrie. Eileen Mary Shireen. And for the degree of Bachelor of Science Information Technology Management with Business with Industrial Experience with Honours, John Barton Ward. Sarah Budwani. Ansar Hussain. Munmun Kumar. Jiten Patel. and in Information Technology Management for Business with Honours, Richard Anton Barker. Zara Chowdhury. Heofan Cheng. Chan Chan Cheng. Anita Chung. Yashar Dadashnajad. Joshua Baron Donlan. James Matthew Fleming. Sean Anthony Joseph Healy. Michael Francis Kostiki. Kay Liu. Daniel McGraw. Eilish McGill. Deepa Mistry. Stephen Mizon. Daniel Peter Morris. Sophie Jane Phillips. Timothy Poon. Olivia Potts. John Roy Russell. Jack Salisbury. Zulfkanen Shah. Stanislava Ivanova Spasova. Suzanne Tattersall. Jason Trikamji. Mark Andrew Walker. Rebecca Jane Ward. Michael Zelinka. And in Systems Analysis and Design with Honours, Luke Arnold. And in Systems Analysis Design with Industrial Experience with Honours, Lewis Peter Brown. And in International Management with American Business Studies with Honours, Eleanor Grace Bird. Nicholas Black. Judith Marion Butcher. Ozra Sesnati. Lisa Corbett. Daniel Elliott. Ashley Hartwell. Kai Thomas Edward Holgate. Joseph Mark Johnson. Faye Victoria MacDonald. Anna Ruth Moranto. Emily Louise Marner. Nicholas Charles John Morgan. Sebastian George Nigel. Thomas Patrick Riley. Andrada Jana Ralukas Sabin. Gabrielle Savikaiti. Catherine Shahana Sen. Matthew Smith. Andrew Jonathan Tarbuck. Adele Christie Todd. Alexander James Vassis. Tellery Walters. Sarah Wynne. Dale Zaidi. And in International Management with Honours, Heather Jacqueline Anderson. Simon Varson. Hannah Louise Bartosiak. Kate Ellen Clark. James Duncan Cameron Clark. William John Costa. Andrew Devon. Benjamin Thomas Deneen. Holly Fitzgerald. Anna Maria Florescu. Benjamin Vocht. Rory John Gibson. Stephen Hallam. Perry Hobson. AJ Jilka. Gulbir Singh Jahal. Thomas Henry Loronen. Danny Lee. Mia Macon. Naomi Matthias. Sheena Kamunta Mokaya. Annie Morton. Eleanor Paparozzi. Nishant Parekh. Megan Parkinson. Elizabeth Pyle. Anthony John Rogowski. John Scott. Ekaterina Shalabanova. Alexandra Francis Shetcliffe. Alexandra Phoebe Splain. Joshua Stone. Matthew John Swift. Mark Christopher Swift. Nikolai Tashev. Laura Taylor. Lucy Temple. Dominique Thiesmeyer. Helen Elizabeth Tyrrell. Sarah Josephine Wan. Thomas Whittam. Michael Edmund Wilkinson. Anne Carolyn Isabel Wolfe. And in Information Technology and New Media with Industrial Experience with Honours, Dominic Briggs. And in Information Systems Engineering with Industrial Experience with Honours, Vernon Kurzweil. And in Accounting, Management and Information Systems with Honours, Adam Barlow. Ross Creed. Zipping Mao. Syed Ahmed Matuza Naqvi. Rashida Razak. Alex Lee Wormsley. Ka Ken Wong. And for the degree of Bachelor of Arts, International Business, Finance and Economics with Honours, Rachel Anderson. Amripal Singh Bulla. Artem Bokarov. Kirill Boyanov. Daniel Brown. James Michael Carr. Kai Siang Chai. Ravi Chand. Lian Corey. Sean Crowther. Theodore Danielov Dakov. James Findley. Serena Eleanor Gogita. Tim Goodwin. Pavanveer Singh Grewal. Walid Aurangzeb Haq. Prashant Hingurani. Harry Jones. Sarika Gyan Kashyap. Peter Coxis. Jonathan Lazarov. Kayan Lee. Yang Li. Noel Jia Sheng Lim. Yangi Liu. Francesca Jean Lopez. Tin Fung Mak. Mary Jo McKeever. Laura Moran. David Myers. Elizabeth Sarah Olenek. Declan Wesley Ramsey. Faizan Salim. Monish Hamant Samant. James Philip Sanderson. Toby John Sugar. Gladys Sosa. Khalil Walid Suki. Jack Steer. Alison Alexandra Stockwell. Tanya Stoimanova. Sona Tom. Ayao Weng. Remy Williams. Liqing Zhu. Nikolaev Zekev. And in Management and Information Systems with Honours, Charlotte Lauren Thomas. And in Accounting, Management and Information Systems with Honours, Yue Peng. And for the degree of Bachelor of Science Management with Honours, Kingsley Ian Barker. Ian David Cheetle. John Lynch. And in Management, Accounting and Finance with Honours, Christian David Tilley. And in Management, Marketing with Honours, Irene Shihaj. And in Management and Marketing of Textiles with Honours, Leanne K. Pugh. And for the degree of Master of Science in Management of Projects, Chong Chong Gu.
Today, we have celebrated the award of your degrees. Congratulations. On behalf of the University of Manchester, I extend to each of you our very best wishes for your future. I now declare the ceremony closed. Please stand.